And we are live coming to you from a Sunday night. You guys know who I am. And we are doing a fundraiser tonight to help the great people of Illinois fight these draconian, evil gun laws that they want to infringe on the rights. So we have Marine Gun Builder. If you guys don't know who he is, Freedom Career University founder. Marine Gun Builder is a gun rights activist, I would say.
A little bit.
Yeah. Then we have Flying Rich. Flying Rich, if you guys watch my channel, you have to know who Flying Rich is. And we have Todd Vandermine, and I am going to let Todd introduce himself because I'm sure you're familiar with Marine Gun Builder and Flying Rich. But Todd, go ahead and tell everyone who you are.
I run the YouTube channel called Freedom Steel. I'm a former NRA contract lobbyist. I worked for NRA for 25 years handling the state of Illinois. I've done some work for the industry. I'm a former 07 SOT FFL holder, and it's been a long 30 plus years.
All right. And what are you doing now?
Now I'm retired, but I'm consulting on the litigation with the guys in Illinois here, be it FFL Illinois, the Aurora Sportsman's Club. And when I'm not hurt, I'm out pushing dirt, building 20 new ranges out at the Aurora Sportsman's Club. That's a whole nother saga. But
yeah, and you guys are suing over Illinois' assault weapons ban. And we're going to get into that because one of my least favorite judges in the world is up on that circuit court.
Who's that?
Easterbrook.
Oh, Frivolous Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing bigger than, I'm starting to assume that Frank's ego is as big as Gabriel Iglesias' waistline.
Probably no one knows who Gabriel Iglesias is.
Fluffy!
Yeah.
So, a comedian. He's hysterical.
Yeah. Fluffy.
Yeah. He's a big guy, but he's freaking hilarious.
He is. He's good. He's good. My wife and I like him. So, but I just figured that we used to have a state rep in Illinois, Kathleen Willis, and she was a large woman. And my running joke about her was the only thing, her ego matches her waistline, because she was just so full of herself and everything. So,
okay, yeah. Tell me this. Give us. Well, let me first say that we have the link down below in the description on where you can donate to. Please, no super chats tonight. None of these streams are monetized. It's all going to trying to raise money to fight these laws. But tell everyone exactly what the status is with these laws. I've been reporting on it, but if you haven't watched my videos, you might find this useful. So go ahead and tell everyone.
Well, here's the quick rundown. 4 different suits were filed in Southern Illinois. One by a local attorney, Thomas Magg, one by the Second Amendment Foundation, an ISRA, one by FFL Illinois, and one by NSSF. And they were all combined in a batch down in front of Judge Stephen McGlynn in Southern Illinois. Yeah. There were other lawsuits in the north. Beavis, which is the Naperville suit, which involves the National Association for Gun Rights, was out there earlier because Naperville passed an ordinance before the state of Illinois did, and their ordinance simply banned the sale. It wasn't as comprehensive as the state law. And the Beavis people then amended their complaint once the state law was passed. And then you had another case called Herrera, which some doctor in Chicago decided it would be a good idea to challenge the Illinois law, the Chicago ordinance, and the Cook County ordinance all in one suit. And that brought all that. So the Herrera suit and Beavis asked for injunctions. They were denied. They appealed. When we did our consolidated case, asked for an injunction. Ours was granted. And then as the state appealed our cases up, the Seventh Circuit combined all 6 cases under the they used the Beavis headline as the earlier case in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. The Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against us on the injunction and said it was unlikely that we were going to prevail on the merits, but it was still possible, trying to hedge their bets, I think.
Yeah.
Right about the time that decision was coming down, we saw the writing on the wall with the registration deadline. And so the FFL, GOA,
yeah, I was about to bring up GOA.
Yeah.
I run the foundation website
okay,
for Gun Owners Foundation, which is the GOA's nonprofit foundation. So if you ever wonder how all those documents get uploaded to the website.
yeah. So it's great to partner with GOA. So you've got the FFL organization, GOA, and GSL in the suit I'm working on. And so we amended that complaint to include a challenge to the registration scheme. The registration scheme and the rules based on a 2A claim, a due process claim, and a vagueness claim. And so the rules are going to what's called the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. They have their hearing on these rules Tuesday, and we have a hearing that afternoon with Judge McGlynn about our motion for an injunction based on the registration stuff. So Tuesday's going to get to be an interesting day. We'll see how it goes. But right now, that's where we are. And we're trying to, we've been hearing people say, what do we do? What do we do? Right now, people are voting with their feet. And the stats that I saw, I just have to figure out the website here. But you've got 0.25% of people have filed registrations with the state. Let me see if I get which.
Yeah. Costas Moros is on that case too, right?
Yes, Costas is one of the lawyers. So
great lawyer, by the way.
Yeah. When we were shopping this stuff around, and one of the things, so what happened was I sit on the board of directors for Aurora Sportsman's Club, and Aurora sat there and decided that because of some other issues, they wanted to find a way to get involved with this stuff. And so with that, they decided to start trying to fundraise. And with that, because of that, they also worked, and we kicked off Second Amendment Defense and Education Coalition. And with that, we use that as a fundraising wing to try to, raise money for this lawsuit. Because the thing is, we have a direct input. I know that SAF's lawyers do a good job, Cooper and Kirk. I know that, there's some other groups out there. But in our lawsuit, I think it gets closer to guys who want to have a really forceful argument. And we were, when everybody else went after magazines and guns, the FFL lawsuit went after guns and parts because there's a prohibition on internal parts within this law.
Yeah.
And so and the reason being is that I believe that there's a right to repair. So if you go back to Heller, the 27 words of the Second Amendment define it. Now you jump forward to last June when the Supreme Court said, look, if it's covered by the text, it's presumptively protected conduct, and the burden shifts to the state. So ever since I've read those words, I've had the opinion that it is our job to make the 27 words of the Second Amendment read like the Encyclopedia Britannica. And therefore, if you go back to Ezell, which was a challenge to Chicago's ban on ranges, Ezell said you have a right to acquire, you have the right to train and practice and maintain proficiency. So those are those ancillary rights that are included under the text of the Second Amendment. Well, our thinking is there has to be a right to repair. If you have a right to train and maintain proficiency, you have to have the right to maintain your firearm in good working order. And if we build off of that, then you have the right to assemble your own firearm. If you have the right to assemble your own firearm, then don't you have the right to build your own firearm if you have the skill and ability and the tools to do so? So we get all that included in this, and their ghost gun stuff is going to get flushed down the toilet. So that's part of the thinking in the way that we attack things. And we amended our complaint because we wanted to make a 2A challenge to the registration stuff. Originally, we had thought we'd go with 3 different lawsuits, but when everybody else jumped in, part of that strategy went out the window.
Yeah, that's one of the good things that we have about Marine Gun Builder being on here, because he runs Freedom Crew University. You can Google that, and it teaches people how to build their own firearms. And that business would be affected by stuff like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm just going to go and echo one other thing there that's he didn't mention, but safety. I mean, imagine what they're trying to do. They're trying to tell you that you can't replace broken parts, or you have to run guns unsafely because you can't use and can't purchase internal parts. I mean, there can't be anything more disgusting from folks trying to impose these draconian laws and really say, hey, look, yes, you can own your firearm, but you'll have to carry it around unsafely, right? And hurt yourself and possibly others because you can't repair it when it needs repairing, right? And it's like any other tool. From time to time, parts break and they need to be replaced or they need to be repaired. And this affects the safety of every gun owner in the entire state. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. But if they play that game, then it's, if your gun's unsafe, then it's forced obsolescence, and they get rid of the ones that are currently in existence. So
and prevent you from buying any new ones.
Correct.
Right. So you can't fix what you have, and you can't buy anything new.
Yep. You're right. And the same thing with magazines. Magazines are consumables. They're expendables. I remember when I was doing a qualification for an agency one time, and I had my 1911 and the mag wasn't working. It was repeatedly, and I took the mag out and I threw it in the garbage. And I watched another guy fish the magazine out of the garbage. I go, what are you doing? It was all this. I said, dude, my life is worth more than a $15 magazine. He said, you do what you want. But so, yeah, they're mechanical objects. Your car breaks down, guns break down, things happen, but that's part of their plan. They just want to make it so nebulous and so over the top that it's impossible to comply with. So we're fighting that here, and like I said, we're the only guys to make the argument about right to repair. And I think it's an important argument, because if you get that building block, it's the road to take out all the ghost gun stuff.
Yeah, we share, like, a couple of attorneys that have worked on this a little bit in the background is Rob Olson, Steven Stambolier, who happens to be my attorneys too.
I talked to Steve at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. We had a couple of good conversations and everything.
Yeah.
So there's and he's got a lawsuit against Illinois suppressor ban here.
Yes, he does. That was combined with the ASA's lawsuit.
Right. He filed first, then ASA filed, and they've been combined in front of what should be a decent judge. But
it's just right now it's in the waiting period, and they're using Cooper and Kirk, who's also SAS, not SA, SAF's attorneys.
Right. They do a lot of their appellate work and all that stuff. Believe it or not, Cooper and Kirk is. I'm the named plaintiff in a lawsuit against Cook County's ammo tax, and Cooper and Kirk is helping on that one as well.
Yeah. It's definitely power brokers. They're actually a Washington D.C. based attorney.
Yeah. David Thompson and Pete Patterson are two of the guys that are the driving force behind that stuff. And I think it was Pete that argued Pete argued the Maryland case, Bianchi.
Bianchi. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So they're good guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of good guys up there that's arguing, a lot of good people that are working on these cases. And speaking from experience, I know that your guys' attorneys, like all the attorneys on there, are actually pro-gun attorneys. They're not in it for money. I know them all personally, and they all have this belief of the Second Amendment. They're ideologues in a good way.
Right. Chuck, I've known Chuck Michelle for over 20 years.
Yeah. Chuck Michelle's a good guy.
And that's why we went, his firm they've been fighting the stuff out in California, so they've seen most of it. So, I know there's a lot of people out there with good hearts, but you get a lot of amateurs out there that file stuff, and they think that all they have to do is staple Heller and now New York to their complaint, and they're going to win. And I think if you read the district court judge and Beavis, Herrera, and you can even see from some of the two appellate justices, Easterbrook and Woods, that if there is the possibility of a eye of a needle that you can thread a camel through, they will, and try to turn the ruling on its ear to get it to say what they want it to say. I think you just saw that coming out of the second district and the Antinuk challenge.
Yeah, the Antinuk challenge was crazy when they said, "Oh, you don't have to show analogs." And it's like, well, yeah, you do. I mean, that was a direct.
Right. I'm going to be a little bit more sinister about that. It's my belief that those guys, after getting spanked by the Supreme Court and being told that you just can't summarily dismiss stuff, that they knew that they would have a chance to write a standard that was going to bind up everything below. And that's why I think they threw our side a bone on the social media stuff, on the churches, and
posted signs,
and on the vampire. They're calling that the vampire rule now.
Yeah.
You have to post in order to carry. And I think they threw that to us, but they wrote a lot of bad stuff at crowded places, that urban versus rural, which means your rights can be dictated by your zip code. There's a lot of bad stuff in there. And I guess just like the decision we got in the Seventh Circuit, where it was a bad decision, it's just so bad and so off the rails. You got to believe that Clarence Thomas and Alito and all those guys are sitting there going, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I believe Clarence Thomas says, because Clarence Thomas said you cannot make a place a sensitive area because people gather there. And New York's reasoning for making Times Square a sensitive place is because people gather there.
Right.
I have no idea how they screwed that one up.
Well, the legislature doesn't care. Their attitude is, we're going to keep doing it until you make us say no. And now we're back into a waiting game. They're hoping it's going to be another decade before big cases get up there and we have a new court. They played that game back in 2016 with Hillary. They thought that, they get Hillary, they get to replace Ginsburg with somebody. And if somebody else, died, you had, Scalia died, and they were salivating at getting that fifth seat and whatever. And it didn't go that way. The one time I really agree with Mitch McConnell that he stuck it out and he got the cojones to sit there and not pass Merrick Garland. And look what a disaster as an attorney general that guy has worked out to be. So, now they're back into the waiting game. And now we have just seen filed in at least 2 cases here in Illinois. One, we have a case on a nonviolent felon that is very similar to Range, called Atkinson. And there's another case that deals with mass transit, I believe.
Yeah, the range
And,
is interesting because that's a non-violent felony. Rahimi is a violent guy.
right. And he's in his thing. The thing isn't about domestic violence convictions in his, it's about civil orders and whether or not they're. And
But
I got a prediction on that, but the court, the defendants in these, so the one is a challenge to the CTA and the mass transit line in Chicago, and they have filed a motion to stay all proceedings pending the outcome of Rahimi, thinking that Rahimi is going to lend some clarification. So, they're playing that card again, trying to slow walk everything for another 6 months. I think we'll see Rahimi before June. If they don't take up Range, I think it's more likely that Barrett writes it. But I think it's either going to be Gorsuch or Barrett that writes that opinion. If you listen to the orals, Gorsuch was like, we only have to decide this much. We don't have to decide all this other stuff. Yeah. He's in for a narrow ruling, but I think they're going to put down some markers. I think they're going to put down markers as to dangerousness. I'm hoping that they shoot that responsible citizen, just blow it out of the water. And I think they're going to talk about some due process and civil stuff. So I'm hoping that we get enough to kill ex parte red flag stuff and a bunch of that. And that I think we get more than we lose in Rahimi. That's my opinion.
I do think either way, it's going to be a narrow decision. I think it's going to be very narrow. I don't think it's going to be anything like mind-blowing that's going to shift the goalpost by a lot or set down standards, but I do think it's going to be a narrow decision. Either way, I'm not sure which way it's going to go. I'm on the fence about that, but I do believe narrow. What do you think, Kenny?
Well, look, I think that the fact that we're getting cases heard or considered at the Supreme Court level, finally, after so many years without them,
a good point.
Is an enormous win for us, right? Because there hasn't been anything coming out of there. So there's been free reign from these tyrants in state and local places to just go, however they want. And not have any boundaries whatsoever. So if we can reinstitute some boundaries, we'll start taking them. Because to be quite honest with you, I think the most frustrating thing, and he said at the beginning here, he's lived a lifetime of advocacy, is we've been done defending the Second Amendment for like 2 decades. We want to be on the offensive. We do not want to be defending anymore. We want to be on the offensive. So, the more power we have behind us to go on that offensive, to go after these people and take them to task when they do that, the better. I think a lot of reasons why we're in this situation is because we didn't have the concrete decisions that we have needed over the past few decades from the Supreme Court. So the fact that they're taking them up now is a great thing. And I think it really is just the time that we're living in. We're the patriots, unfortunately, that are really setting the example for the next generation, because I am not 100% convinced that they're ready to take the mantle, right? Like they've been in this situation where, they've been fed all this bullshit about firearms and ownership of firearms, and we need some time to re-educate the younger generation to take on this fight, and they're going to need some tools that we leave to them to do it.
Yeah, and while we were talking, the Warsaw Patriot came in. Warsaw Patriot is the guy that arranged this stream tonight. So
how's it going, guys?
Yep.
Hey, sorry for being late. Technical issues. Always gonna love it.
But it looks like Rich might be coming back in. He was having. He had to do some stuff, but but This is definitely going to be interesting, and it's just not about one state. That's what I try to explain to people. They're going to see where they can get with certain states, and that is going, and the antis are going to grab that, and they're going to try to get it in states across the country.
Yeah.
So we have to fight this on a state level because that's where they're going to try to win. Federally, they're not going to, I don't think they have too much of a chance of getting too much past federally. So they're going state by state.
So
Well-
let's talk about the state stuff for a second, because I think it's such an important point that John just brought up. You know, I mean, I live in a very tough state like you do, Todd. Okay. And you know,
Massachusetts or
Rhode Island, right next
Rhode
door.
Island?
Right?
Okay,
So-
same difference. Suburbs.
Right. Yeah. And so yeah, really, it's just a little town of Massachusetts. Really, it's not even a state. But the thing is that we have, for the longest time, it was always, oh, whenever these things came up in the state, oh, well, just move. No, I don't have to fucking move. My whole family lives here. I'm from here, right? And I live in America. Why the fuck do I have to move? No, I'm not moving, right? And so this is very much a state battle, state by state by state. And yes, they're going around and they've been picking us off state by state by state. But this is one big racketeering ring. That's all this really is, right? You have an anti-gun lobby, nonprofit, who donates a whole bunch of money to politicians, and they all happen to be on the left. Okay, they give them the money. The politicians go do their dirty work and try to create, you know, laws to prevent citizens from owning firearms, and then they feed that money back by passing, you know, budgetary concerns that the money goes back to the same people that are in the anti-gun lobby, and the same loop happens, right? It's just recycling our own tax dollars. They don't care about this stuff at all, right? We do. We care about our individual rights. They don't care about it. They care about the money, power, and influence. And so it takes us, like what we're doing here tonight, to come together collectively, to band together, not only in voices, but money is a part of it, and to raise money to go back and say, no, you're not going to push us around. No, we're not going to allow it. And no, we're not going to let you just walk in and walk all over us. We're going to take you to task. Yes, we're going to raise money as individual citizens to do so. And you're going to have to spend the money. And when you lose, you're going to have to go back. And the anti-gun lobby is going to have to say, are we getting more money? And the politicians, I don't know. Are you going to give it to them? Because you keep losing. Are you going to keep recycling cash to keep losing? At some point, it's not going to be worth it for them financially. And then all of a sudden, their true colors, as it always shows, when money isn't there, they don't really care. And they'll be on to the next thing.
Yeah,
okay?
they definitely do not care. That's a good point that you bring up there. It's not about money. I mean, it is about money. It's not about doing what's right or what they believe in. It's about money. It's about getting reelected. And they get reelected through spending. So they need that money to get reelected, and they just care about power.
But
power.
Part of the problem here is that our side has never gotten into has never really done a bare-knuckled brawl with these guys on a political level. Our guys, for the longest time, if we educate them and tell them how stupid their bill is, we will win simply because of logic. We're like Spock. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. And that's why when they were passing this bill, all the gun groups in Illinois said we would largely not negotiate with them on the text of the bill. We wouldn't point every flaw out to them. We've had to do a little bit more of that with the rules, but still, we didn't tell them everything. And that's why a bunch of it is ended up in our amended complaint. But there are, NRA doesn't roll up its sleeves, and nobody else had the war chest to go do it across the states and do things that would just. So they passed this advertising civil suit bill in Illinois last session, like you can see in a couple other states.
Yeah.
And so
JR-15 type stuff, right?
Well, yeah, paramilitary training, if you advertise that something and the people that are included could be the engineering firms, could be a machine shop, could be all kinds of people. And so one of the things in the bill is if you do something to make the gun more lethal, you can be civilly on the hook for that. Well, what makes guns more lethal? Hollow point bullets. Who do we have in Illinois? We have Olin down at the Alton facility. All right. About 2,500 union jobs. And being a union guy, this is where you want to scare the dog shit out of some of these guys. You go into, you peel out the voter file, you grab the Democratic voters, and you sit there and start dropping mail against the downstate Democrat that voted against us and voted for this bill and said he sided with greedy trial lawyers over 2,500 union jobs. Make him, because if they sue Olin and put Olin out, Olin's gone. 2,500 union jobs gone. Poof. And you do that, we can talk about guns without talking about guns. And there's a whole way to do that. And, I did a mail piece on a senator in Chicago. And these couple of guys said, you can't beat me. You can't beat me. You know what? You're absolutely right. I probably can't beat you in your district. But you know what I can do? Illinois' primaries in March. I can make you walk through the months of January and February and knock on doors and wear out the soles of your shoes in that miserable weather to make sure that you win again. I can take away your time and all your fun, because we would drop mail pieces in there and it was a guy's fist going through a glass door, going for the latch. And it said, Senator Sandoval has somebody he wants you to meet. He's here to attack your family. He's he's here to terrorize you. He's here. And boy, did my phone light up. Those guys, how many more of these racist mailings? What's racist about it? You voted for the criminals. You voted to let, and that one, the bill that I was talking about was there was a guy named Hale DeMar. Hale DeMar lived in Highland Park, Deerfield, somewhere up there where there was a gun ban, handgun ban. This is all pre-Heller. And he shot the guy. The guy came into his house on like Christmas Eve and he shot at the guy. And the guy jumped out a window and took it, and it got in the keys and stole his car. And the state's attorney said, we're not prosecuting this guy. Not happening. And the town tried to go after him for a village ordinance violation for having a handgun in a town you couldn't have a handgun in. And I introduced the NRA lobbyist. I introduced a bill that said you cannot be charged criminally. You cannot be charged civilly if you use a firearm in self-defense, in a legitimate self-defense case. And he voted, a bunch of the libs voted against the bill. And you use that as a basis. But, I know from being a union organizer and the guys at my union, 30% of my union trades guys pulled a Republican ballot, like me. And you know what? So now, if you can carve in to their base, and, you got 30% voting Republican right off the get-go. All the Republicans have to do is not attack the trades unions. I mean, Trump gets in office. What does he do? He has a meeting with the building trades. Biden gets in office in the first 48 hours, cancels the pipeline gig, which was all trades jobs. All right. So, it's real easy to make this case. And then if you start mailing into Democratic households that a particular representative or senator are there and are siding with greedy trial lawyers over your job, your interests, you put some money behind TV spots, YouTube spots, direct mail into Democratic households. Watch them shit themselves. I guarantee you. And we can do that. I mean, the magazine issue, they think criminals ought to be better armed than you. I don't have to talk about AR-15s. I can sit there and say they would, have a chalk outline. They would rather see this be your wife's end than her standing over a rapist with a smoking pistol. You want to play that game? We can draw it, but this is the bare-knuckled political fight that NRA thinks orange postcards and our guys are going to act like Pavlov's dogs, and that's enough. It's not anymore. We have to get to those females. Look at how many Jewish people who have been liberal and didn't want a gun in their house and whatever, and are now coming around saying, hey, wait a minute. I mean, the left has eaten itself up between this Palestine and Jewish thing. God love it. I'm going to sit back and have popcorn and watch it. But this is a recruiting opportunity for our side. Yeah. This is a recruiting opportunity.
I think Warsaw wants to say something.
Yeah, 100%, Todd. And also a Marine Gun Builder. I actually want to bring something up you mentioned. We're not willing to moving. This is our home. This is our country. This is our states. Our states don't define us. We're American citizens. We got to make our politicians understand this is America. This is not Canada 2.0, which they're trying to do here in America. Because, guys, we've just defeated a federal bill that was trying to be in Congress. When I saw that, I was like, this is Canada-style gun control law 201. I don't want America to become like Canada, because Canada is not becoming free anymore, guys. It's becoming like more of a socialist commune. And I know this. Guys, I didn't understand what the Second Amendment was when I was a youngster. It wasn't until after I got out of high school. I was formerly a Democrat, Obama supporter, go figure. Second term, though, I remember when Obama said this to a guy was asking him from Chicago. He said, Mr. Obama, why aren't you arming up your own citizens and going after these hard rock criminals? And why aren't we arming up the populace? And he says, well, first off, it's a multi-person question. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a straightforward question. Answer his question. So it got me curious. Why are we not arming and defending our own populace and standing by them as Americans?
Because that makes us too independent. They don't want it. But I mean, John, here, this is some of the mail that we did back in the day when Blagojevich was governor.
Yeah, Blagojevich. Yeah,
right?
Blagojevich.
But,
and Trump pardoned him.
So, we can do things. You start dropping, you start banging, Democratic legislators with union households. Look, we're not going to get the SEIUs. I get it. We're not going to get some of the AFSCME guys in the teachers union.
No, that Democrat in Virginia was defeated, barely.
Yeah.
You might not get that joke, but the Democrat running for
the one that had the OnlyFans page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kind of a joke there.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
No one laughed.
No, but but as far as our states are concerned, from 2013, I remember seeing a progression of assault weapons bans going across states, starting with that New York Safe Act that happened under Cuomo, and it's been an unending going slope. And ever since Bruin from last year, from what I've been told, right, Todd, it's literally undone every gun law we've been seeing on the books. Hands down, like even look at Hochul's law, that just got struck down.
Well, some of it did. The rest, I think that's going back to SCOTUS.
It is, and my thing again is the second got called out by Thomas and those guys because of what they were doing. They saw the writing on the wall. So what they had to do is they had to give us something. So they said, what can we live with? But, this thing about places that post, the vampire rule, however you want to describe it, but by taking away the crowded areas and writing an opinion that lets urban areas do what they want and rural areas can't do the same thing. It's BS. It's whatever it is. But, I don't think it's going to get in front of the Supreme Court.
But again, the logic, we fall into it, right? We fall into false logic with extreme exposure to more citizens. So when you're starting to say that a crowded area cannot have guns, you're creating more soft targets.
Absolutely.
And no response to an incident that can occur by the behavior of a person with bad and ill intent. right? This crazy logic. Well, then, okay, we're going to cave on something, so we'll give certain areas this will be good, but if it's really rural and there's nobody around, yeah, sure, you can have all the guns you want. Like that is the exact opposite logic of what you want to do, right? When you create a mass situation for a soft target, you are actually advertising to
that's
those
what they
folks,
want.
right? To those folks who want to cause mass carnage and hurt others, and an easy ability to do that. And so again, these people are not leaders. They're not. They hold positions of authority, but they certainly are not leaders. Leaders lead people, right? And they do it in the best interests of the people. They don't send massive amounts of people out there to be slaughtered. And that's exactly what they do all of the time with these, whether it's a gun-free zone or it's we're going to pick and choose where you can and can't protect yourself. Okay. And so, yes, we're at a point. Listen, I actually haven't been this optimistic about where we're heading in a long time, because I know it feels like there's just so much bullshit. But I mean, a couple of years ago, like when the ghost gun stuff started to really pop off with the legislation around it and they were going after it hardcore, I would tell my audience every week, because every week there was like a Debbie Downer story and they're going after this state and this state is introduced this and this is right. And it was just like one after the other. And I was like, this is good. It's temporary pain for a long-term win. Let them lose their mind, because we have to have the fight. Right. So let them go crazy on shit they don't understand, and then we'll take them to task. And again, so it's temporary pain, long-term win. Okay? Because here's the alternative. I hate to inform everybody here watching. If we lose this stuff, you don't live in America anyway. Right? So
we're on box number 3.
At that point, this really isn't going to mean much, right? Yep. At that point.
We're on box number 3. They do not want to see box number 4.
Yeah.
You've never been in the service or been to a third world nation, you do not want to see box number 4. I'll tell you that right now. But, you're right. And one of the things that's got me really optimistic, so I had this pulled up on my other page. So the state police are publishing weekly statistics on registration. As of close of business Friday, 6,141 individuals have completed disclosures for the registration. Of that, 12,086 are firearms, which if you're running the numbers, that's 2 firearms per person, roughly. Okay.
Average.
And that's the averaging. Accessory disclosure is 6,200 disclosures. So they've got some assault rifle attachment that they're registering on top of the guns. And then there's 117 people that have registered 50 BMG ammo.
Ammo?
Yeah. Yeah. You have to, they designated rifles as 50 BMG. And here's crazy. They say you can't import, manufacture, sell, whatever, 50 BMG ammo. But in the rules that they just published, they said reloading isn't manufacturing. So I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish, because, okay, I'm just going to I'm going to go get a reloading press for 50 BMG and reload.
So if you buy, one shot only casings, 50 BMG casings, and reload, you're set.
As long as you registered, hey, I got 150 rounds I'm registering, and you got 150 rounds. Yeah, I just keep reloading. This is where people who know nothing about guns write these laws. And then I think the state police were handed a shit sandwich, and the legislature expects them to fix it. And it's like, this can't be fixed without legislative change.
I'm really concerned about the number of 50 BMG deaths and murders every year in Illinois. Could you help us out and let us know how many people are killed?
That was funny. That was funny, because when the first big challenge to a 50 cal ban happened, I was still lobbying. It was many years ago. and Ronnie Barrett had come into town to testify. And I was out to dinner with Ronnie Barrett, and a Cook County Democrat stopped by, and I introduced him, and he says, "I'm voting with you." I said, "Really, Kevin? Why is that?" He said, "I've been asking these guys at the state's attorney's office for 3 months, show me what you've got." He said the only 50 they could come up with, 50 BMG, was a guy who had an order of protection, and they went and confiscated his guns because of the order of protection. Not that they'd ever had one you picked up at a crime, not by a gang, not anything else. And he said, "I'm getting all this grief over one gun on an order of protection. No, I'm voting with you guys."
No,
And you know, Ronnie was there, and you know, that's how bad but the issue for the 50s is when I was a lobbyist, it's about sniper rifles. They don't want guys having super accurate rifles. They're happy with a 3 or 4 minute of angle rifle in their book, but yet everybody sprays and prays according to them. But if we can start dropping 3 shots and a dime at 200 yards, now all of a sudden everybody out there with a rifle is Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, I did some research. I tried to find any type of crime with the 50 cal for the last like 3 years, and I couldn't find any.
The last one that
not in our country,
find them, that I remember being semi-actively used was the guy in Colorado at Killdozer. He had one with
50.
Yep.
Yeah, but he didn't actually use it.
That's debatable. He had firing ports. I've never seen the police reports about it, but he had one in the cab with him. But it's extreme. I mean, look,
I hope he had ear probe, because that'll ring you in a metal cab.
If he doesn't get the muzzle outside the cab, oh yeah. I mean, if you've ever been around somebody shooting any one of those, whether it be the Armalite or the Barrett, the best place to stand is right behind the shooter.
Yeah, directly behind you.
Because of those muzzle brakes and all that. And that's that's just, but that's what they want. Just like the attachments in Illinois' law, just like the parts, they don't want any of that. And I see my former business model made, what was it, the New York Times or somebody today about the recycled guns.
Yeah, we have a question for Todd. Rich, go ahead. Rich is the reader.
I have a question for Todd. What's the definition of clearly inconspicuously when it comes to Illinois' concealed carry signage?
So when that was written, believe it or not, this is the one time the rules worked in our favor. They have to use the exact sign. By the law, they have to use the exact sign that the state police published in their rules. They can't make up their own sign. So the general, now whether or not a judge in Cook County, because some places have printed clear signs. It is supposed to be a white background, red border, a Beretta with the circle through it, the red circle and slash. That's the official sign. Some places, because they didn't want to be conspicuous. In Illinois, they tried getting the vampire rule included when we passed carry in 2013, and we beat them on it. And the whole notion was it drove the anti-gunners nuts, because it was a reminder that they saw those at school. They saw those at governmental buildings, that we had won the fight. That's what it was. Psychologically, it broke them. That's why they wanted to invert it. And they didn't have the votes to do it. But it is supposed to be, somewhere within a given range of the handle, or, we've seen people put them at the bottom of the door. We've seen people put them in the transom over the doorway and things like that. And I don't know of anybody that's been charged under that at this point in time. When I was lobbying, I would get phone calls from guys doing stupid stuff all over the time. But in the other part of the law that people don't understand, you have to be the owner of the building. You can't be the tenant. If you're renting the space, you don't have the authority to put that up. Now, How's that going to play out? I think if you get a judge out by me in Kendall County, they'll go, well, that's the black letter of the law. Sorry, it doesn't apply. Not guilty. In Cook County, you're going to go to the appellate level and it's going to get wrangled out and all that stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah, but if it's a clear sign, yeah. But a lot of our guys don't point to those signs because they figured if they're carrying well, they're not going to get found out. And why educate them and make them smarter how to make their place a true no gun zone?
Yep.
Right.
My question is, did anybody try to challenge it saying, hey, I'm carrying a Glock and not a Beretta?
The internet has been full of those debates that it says no Berettas. We've had stores put up different signs, a generic sign with a revolver on it or something else.
Then you'd be like, I don't carry a revolver. I got a
No wheel guns here.
By the black letter of the law, it has to be the exact sign state police published.
I remember that in Minnesota because I did my firearms training with Andrew Rothman, and he would always be measuring the signs, and it's like, well, that's not a legit sign. That's not a legit sign. And
places like Texas are get real particular about, and that's why when they went to the gun dealer licensing stuff, they got real particular on the signs the dealers have to post 1-inch block letters. It was their retribution for the no carry signs.
Yeah,
that was their.
In Virginia, you can put up signs, but they don't carry force of law.
So I got a question. My understanding is that worst case scenario, if I'm found to be carrying, which I pocket carry, but let's say I IWB carried, reached up and you saw a gun at one of these places. Worst case, if I didn't leave, I'd be trespassed. Is that the situation?
That and then depending on the agency, they may lodge a complaint with the carry board and stuff like that. But yeah, typically it's a trespass charge.
If I don't leave.
And I think under the Carry Act, remember, I haven't read the Carry Act in a while. I lived it for about 6 months after we won the court decision. It could be just a simple Class A misdemeanor for violating because if you violate the act in general, it's a misdemeanor for whatever. That's just a catch-all phrase, but they plead all that stuff down. I mean, these days, if you got a FOID card and a carry license, there aren't many judges that are really going to be worrying about you, unless you just happen to draw some shitty judge or whatever. That's.
All right, Warsaw has a question.
Todd, I don't know if you told the guys or not, but did you bring up the issue about when you brought up your lightsaber to Susanna's Bond's, description about the parts?
I don't know. Have you guys heard about that?
Yeah, I watched it. I think I posted it.
So this is a replica of Obi-Wan's original lightsaber. And back in the day, they didn't have all the CNC machines. I mean, remember, Star Wars came out when I was like 11 or 12 years old. So they didn't have all the CNC stuff and whatever. So the prop masters cobbled it together. Well, one of the attachments that makes something an assault weapon is a grenade launcher. Okay, well, this part right here is based off of a World War I Mark III rifle grenade launcher.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And so if you have an original one of these, the last one I saw on auction went for $3,500, an original one. And there are guys who are Star Wars geeks that try to make original stuff as much as they can. My son wants me to make him a working 9mm E11 blaster, which is a Sterling. And the reason it is because it was filmed in London and all the prop houses had all European World War II stuff. So this piece right here, this right here, that came from part of a booster on an A&M 250 caliber machine gun. So there are two components of this that are potentially assault weapons attachments. And I asked them, I said, if I want to be a good law-abiding citizen, do I have to register my stuff? And they said yes. And so now you take the grenade launcher stuff and do a dive a little deeper. Think about the guys with M1 Garands, because there were 2 style grenades launchers for the M1s and even the 1903 Springfields. There was that piece that went over the barrel with a rod and a specific rifle grenade slid over it. And then there was the one that had like fins, and you put a pineapple grenade in it, pulled the pin. There was a sleeve that held the spoon down, and then you used special blanks to launch it. If you have either of those, you have to register them under this law, because when they wrote this, everybody is all spooked about the lookalike 203s. They don't understand what this stuff means. So it's just comical in my book that I brought this up, because you can't, if you're into cosplay, Comic-Con, anything like that, you can't make any of these replicas, because you would be importing parts that are verboten under the law.
Okay, I've been starring some stuff over here for Rich to bring up.
Okie doke.
Yep.
So, all right, signs don't carry the force of law in California either. Good point. And Joe Biden selected John Fetterman to be his speech.
Oh my God, man, that guy.
Okay, all right. So now we got a real question. Are 20-inch Mossberg 590A1s banned because of the bayonet lug and it holds 9 rounds?
More than that.
No, for 2 reasons. It's a long gun that doesn't hold more than 10. 2, it's a manually operated gun. 3, bayonet lugs have no mention at all in the Illinois law. Everybody gets hung up on bayonet lugs from the 1994 law. They've gotten smarter. You don't see many bans today featuring bayonet lugs.
The proposed ban in Virginia, which should not pass, but that does mention bayonet lugs, and it does mention shotguns holding more than 5 rounds.
But but in Illinois, so we have 3 mag limits.
Yep.
Is it semi-auto shotguns? Because in Illinois, semi-auto shotguns are limited to 5. Long guns are generally limited to 10, except for lever guns and those that use 22 rimfire. And then handguns are limited to 15 rounds.
In Virginia, this says shotguns holding more than 5 slugs of the smallest size.
So they went after mini shells. They went the opposite direction.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's going to pass. I don't know if it's going to get out of committee, to tell you the truth, but just wanted everyone to be aware of that they're not totally gone, and there's some crazy laws.
Yep. I'd like to address some facts about this thing. All right, so this bill that actually became law in Illinois back in January 10th was because of a incident known as Highland Park, as you know, was last year. Well, here's the backstory. That kid actually wasn't even supposed to have a firearm to begin with, because, his father, he pretty much paid and expunged his 7 convicted felony records with knives and paid off the ISP to do it, then co-signed his FOID card application, and then you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, I remember that.
But also looking on this long scale, as far as this law is concerned, you got 2.5 million gun owners, and then you got the Sheriff's Association that's also saying they're not going to enforce this. You got the Union of Chiefs of Police that are saying they're not going to enforce this. You also got multiple states attorneys and prosecutors saying they're not going to enforce this, versus 3,000 ISP officers. I say they're under enforceable.
Might be, but we have a couple other questions here.
Yeah,
sure.
Rich?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. All right. Pump action is a pump action 12 gauge with a pistol grip band. Okay. Wow.
Manually operated firearms are exempt.
So pistol grip doesn't make it extra evil.
Ruger Precision with a chassis and a pistol grip out of the box? Nope. Fine. Nope. Threaded barrel on that same gun. Fine.
And
You can send
DB
your
Cooper-
700 out and have the barrel threaded. Fine. If it's a manually operated gun, it is genuinely exempt. The exception for that I will claim is that this is where we get into the weeds on stuff. So the sweetheart, would you hand me that shotgun receiver? My wife just came in to help me restock.
It just
the one right
should
there,
be a complete
the
fire.
silver and camel. Yep. So the thing is that they wrote the magazine ban to be separate from the gun ban. It's not in the same section of law. Okay. So under the magazine ban, they use if it can be readily converted to. All right. Well, here's a problem. Here's a Remington shotgun receiver.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see the tube extensions?
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Readily convertible. Okay. I can make that conversion in a couple of minutes, depending
Yes.
on how tough the packaging is to open up the tube extension. All right. This is where, in my mind, even the 1187s, because they are all readily convertible, and now they have wrote a definition for readily convertible, I can't understand. I physically, no matter how I'm trying to diagram this thing by the comma, and it is so contorted, I don't know what it means. And you know, it's going to be interesting. So under the gun portion, no. And they are freaking out when I brought this up, because can you imagine? All right, so 870, even though it's a pump action gun and it's exempt under the gun ban, but because it uses the exact same tube to feed its magazine, you know, the same extension goes on there, and it's readily converted. And with that, in my mind, since the magazine, I mean, talk to the other gunsmith here. I mean, that magazine is permanently silver soldered into the receiver. So you just, not like the Mossberg with a little bit of Loctite, heat it up and you can unscrew it by hand, but it's part of the receiver. Since it's part of the receiver and can be readily converted, I make the argument that it's illegal to sell.
Yeah, and so
they cannot be caught. They are writing a definition to make that thing so convoluted, because if they were to come out and say, Todd's right, you can't sell an 870, can you imagine the reverberations, what that would look like? Can you imagine what it's going to look like if they can't sell Benelli Super Black Eagles, 1187, Super X3s?
So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, though, right? Right. Like, be patient. let them go at it, okay?
Yep.
Because you understand that they get readily convertible from the GCA, right? Like, it's just a phrase. It's just a phrase. To them, it's just a phrase. So you have them. You have a bunch of fucking nerds basically going through, you know, words and trying to mince words, as we know the left loves to do, right? And find new ways to twist words and phrases and definitions to fit needs for them. And this was a little phrase in a lot of text that they found readily converted, that they could redefine, rehash, you know, turn into something completely different. And so now you take this phrase with somebody who has intent, right? They have a specific intent to squash firearm owners' rights, right? That's their intent. So they have a specific intent. They see a phrase. They have no technical expertise on firearms at all. These are social justice warriors. Firearms is something that they don't want to even know about.
Yeah.
They don't spend any time about, right? So they take this phrase and then they go say, okay, let's redefine, put everything around it, and basically encompass and try to encapsulate everything into this phrase, right?
Right.
But they don't understand all the technical ability around it. And so this is why sometimes, and I know it sucks, but you have to let them do it, because then you can come in as the subject matter expert, the SME on this, and stop picking this apart, you know, one at a time. And this is why when they go to court, they end up getting egg on their face, because the common sense of the logic and the actual illustrations of what we're talking about don't match what they're saying, because they're talking about something that was written specifically, again, in a very large text to deal with firearms and being firearm specific, to applying it to a generality that has nothing to do with firearms at all. And it sucks that we have to do that. And it sucks that we have to bring this in.
DB, you're absolutely right. This is, you got to take the short-term pain for the long-term goal. I absolutely agree with you on that, because the feds have argued down in the Mock case. I think it's Mock v. Garland. I get Vanderstock and Mock confused. 8 hours with a machine shop.
That's Vanderstock.
Yeah, 8 hours with a machine shop is what readily convertible is.
Yeah, that's from the Vanderstock case,
which is freaking ridiculous. But that's what they. But I think part of it is they are still butthurt over 94. Remember, they did the two features test in 94, and what did everybody do? No more collapsible stocks. They milled the bayonet lug off the bottom of the front sight. No more threaded barrels for flash hiders, right? That's why the varmint versions of the ARs came out and got real popular and all that. And what happened? There was never a ban on AR-15 sales. Right. You just couldn't sell an AR that had these features. There was never a ban on Kalashnikov sales. There wasn't a ban on fouls. There wasn't a ban on, a bunch of this stuff, because they just started taking features off. And once they did,
now they're naming them by name.
Right, because they're butthurt over, they wrote a law, the manufacturers lived up to the letter of the law, and they got beat because they didn't know what they were talking about. That's
like anything we say that you just said manufactured. Look how they've taken the word manufactured, right? Like and applied it to home builders, right? Like they rewrite words. Like we just said, okay, it's 8 hours with the machine shop. The next evolution of this is the definition of a machine shop is that you have a screwdriver in your garage, right? Like this is where they go with it, and for no attempt. And again, it's not like we're letting them; they're going to do it anyway. But we can never be in a position to educate them and help them. That was always what I tried to say is, don't go out there and start doing it. Let them write the law. Because I had a lot of people when the ghost gun stuff was really starting getting written into states. I had a lot of people that were fans that were part of the community. They were like, we want to go get involved and do this. And I'm like, no, let them write it blind. Let them write it blind.
The worse it is, the better it is in court.
Yeah, and because there is no negotiation. Again, we're not defending anymore.
Never negotiate against the terrorists.
We're on the assault now. We don't want to defend it. We want our rights back. We want to go negative, right? Yep. Like we don't want to get back to zero. We want to go on the other side and take stuff back.
Yep. No, one of my last words to them was like, you guys want to keep going down this road? Let me promise you this. You will end up with less. When I'm done, you will have less than you have today before this ban.
Yes.
And that's, to me, that's the plum sum attitude of it. We didn't go in there to educate them about it. Once upon a time, it was right after Sandy Hook. They were trying to at least get a magazine ban. And I said, well, you've got a gun ban on your hands. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, here, you said any magazine. I said, do you understand that Henry rifles and pistol calibers hold 13 to 15 rounds? So you're banning those rifles because the magazine is part of the rifle. And they then wrote, that's why the lever action exemption exists in this version, because that got carried along, because in order to do that, one of the few things that happened during this bill was they wrote a section, an earlier version said that any shotgun to where any finger outside of the trigger finger was below the action. So think about that. How do you hold the gun, right? Where are these three little piggies? They're below my trigger finger. And that would have taken out every shotgun, over-unders, everything. And because they had it in a standalone section.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of downstate Democrats that were saying, you guys are making this shit up. You're lying. And I wasn't at the Capitol. One of the lobbyists showed the guy who's a big hunter and supposed to be a big gun guy. And he said, read this language, then show me how you hold your shotgun. And all of a sudden the guy's eyes got as big as saucers, and that language came out. And, I know why the discussion happened. The discussion happened because that newer lobbyist had to prove to legislators, we know what the fuck we're talking about and you don't. So don't tell us. So to get that credibility, there was a little bit, and I understand it. And that's why when we say we're not going to negotiate, we're not going to educate you guys. When we tell you something's in this bill, believe us, it's there. And it was proved. That was one of the ways that it was proven that this is in the bill. Yeah. And so, that, but again, the only way you're going to keep some of those guys in line is if they think you're going to drop mail like this, and you don't have to drop a lot. You drop 5,000 pieces in their district, they don't know if it's 5,000 or 50,000. And they start seeing shit like that, and it's easy to swap out names. But that's where our side falls short for the bare knuckle brawling, fist fight. And the problem is there's been an ongoing war out here in Illinois between what I call the mainstay Chamber of Commerce Republicans and all the conservative groups. Yeah, and I think
I need to interrupt you because you just said something very, very important. It is where we lack, right? Because their money funnels into organizations wide into each one of these states, and they import other people from other states on massive levels to go in and do groundwork and do grassroots movements, right? And we just haven't gotten to that point yet. Again, because I think we're still in the defense mode that we need to be out of, because we've been losing ever since we've been in the defend mode. Right? All that language that was pushed, defend. We've been losing ever since then. It really needs to be, go at it. But did you guys happen to see Biden speak the other day on assault weapons bans? Have you guys seen this clip of him?
I missed it. What did he say?
Oh my God.
It's painful.
Oh my God. You know what, Rich? Who can I forward it to? I'll forward it to one of you.
You can forward it to me if you want.
But he's talking about an assault weapons ban, and I just again, he's the leader of this party, okay, trying to push it, and so let me.
Was it that Vegas incident that he was dressing?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That was a handgun by a professor, by the way, mind you.
Hold on.
Yeah, I might have something interesting coming up about the whole entire situation. Stay tuned. I want to get to some questions because we're going to be wrapping up here in a few minutes after we look
come on. I want to spend my whole night with you guys. I got nothing else going on.
Unfortunately.
I do have one question, and we'll leave it as is, and we'll continue. Everybody on the panel and also in the side chat, when a law is made and also is restricting and also diminishing your rights as far as a firearm or gun owner as an American, do you not find it as discrimination when they're trying to make you move to another state or just, give up and give in?
I find discrimination. I actually moved to another state.
Yeah. And the thing is so it depends on the state you're moving to, but the reality is that we have to, again, I'm going to get back to it. And it really is as simple. You're either United States of America or you're not.
Exactly.
Right. We can't, you understand. Let me make this crystal clear to you. Okay. I live in a very small state that is surrounded by many other states. I can be in several states. In 1 hour, I can hit 4 different states. Okay. In 1 hour.
And that's by walking.
Yeah, by walking, right? So I want you to understand how crazy it is. A unserialized firearm is more severe in some areas and less severe in others.
Mhm.
And watering your grass on a Thursday gets you more in trouble than having an unserialized, privately made firearm.
Yep.
The gap
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
too fucking wide.
Yep.
You
But,
understand?
Yep.
So you mean to tell me? So he was talking earlier about defending your life, right, and defending your freedom. In the state I live in,
Mhm.
if somebody walked in here right now, right, broke into my house, tried to kill my children, rape my wife, and I defended them, I can tell you it's not a 50-50 chance they're prosecuting me.
Oh
Yep.
shoot!
Whether that person could walk in here with a gun, if I shoot them, I'm going to jail.
Yep.
Because that's how my state works. My state doesn't care, what the circumstances was, where you shot them, it was in your house. All that doesn't matter. They forcefully broke in, they strangled your fucking kid. It does not matter. Now, will I get convicted? That's up to a jury of my peers. But the reality is I'm getting prosecuted.
Yep.
You
And that's the
understand?
penalty.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And you also,
I-
This is the problem. This is a problem.
You also hit the
Right?
nail on the head. Either you're free or you're not. Either we have a Second Amendment or we don't.
Well, gun rights are a human right, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Defending myself is a
They are
human right.
civil rights.
Yes. All right. Yeah. So you gotta just, it's just a few seconds. But again, this is the person at the head.
Which we can't hear it.
You gotta turn up the volume. Bud.
Huh?
Send it to me, Rich.
You ever notice his chin's different now? It's like a mask.
Can you just
That's Walter, dude. That's Walter.
just text it to me or whatever?
I'm dropping it in the private chat.
All right.
Oh my god, man!
Oh, I should have.
Brandon is definitely deteriorating.
No, I get all that. That's why I was born in Chicago, been moving west ever since. I've got two small grandkids. I got a 10-month-old and a 2-year-old grandsons. We don't want to move away from our home.
Yep.
Depending on what happens here, we may have to at some point down the road, just so you take away the chance of a felony prosecution.
But it's at the same
But
time.
the more people run, the fewer places there are going to be to run to.
My
Correct.
point, and also it's anybody moving the state in my eyes as discrimination. Then the whole point of having an American flag or the Constitution is a lie and a contradiction. And that's what this is all about.
All right. So
All right, let's see what this guy's going to say.
Idea: if you were driving your automobile here and you left in the key in the parking lot, you left the key in the ignition, and a kid came up and jumped in and stole it, and they got in a crash, you're liable civilly. Why in God's name do people not have to lock up their firearms? Why is that not a requirement?
That's not
All
true.
these mass murders, not this weekend, but have been because people have picked up kids and grabbed stuff off of counters, off of their. Anyway, I don't want to get.
The fuck is he talking
We
about?
need to ban assault weapons.
Kids picking up stuff off of counters.
Dude, he crapped himself in the middle of that sentence. That's what's happening.
His party's telling him to speak this.
Right. And so you have to understand that the people that are, my point here with this is the people that are writing this law is this. These are the people that are trying to do it, right? You have to know the face of the people that are trying to take away your individual liberties. We're not just talking about firearms here. Understand that we take this whole right-wing extremist MVE stuff. We take that with a badge of honor when you call us.
Right.
Okay. But the reality is that what we're really doing is trying to help people keep their rights. Even the ones who don't want it, we still want to help you keep your rights. All right. What do they want to do? They want to take away your rights, whether it be firearm rights, right to speak, right to own a fucking gas stove, anything that makes you comfortable in life or gives you peace of mind and security, they don't want you to have.
Yep. And let me ask you this, NGB. What's stopping a ignorant populace from actually voting away their voting rights away and their freedom of speech rights?
Well, I say it all the time. The Constitution, here's the thing. Here's the dangerous point we're in, okay? We can sit here and say, the Constitution. But the Constitution doesn't mean dick, because it starts with we the people. And if
Yep.
we the people decide that we don't want that anymore, then guess what? There is no Constitution. So we need more we the people that believe in we the people and our individual rights. Because I guarantee you, if we do not course correct on this next generation as fast as possible, they are willing to give up a lot of those rights.
On that front, you have a bunch of kids who do not grasp. They've had it way too easy. Hard times build hard men. Hard men take care of hard times. Soft time, they make easy times, which breeds easy men. I get that, and that's a problem, because I think that I'm going to assume that you were a jarhead once upon a time.
Once a jarhead, always a jarhead.
Yeah, I was an Army dog, so and every job I had in the military was a combat MOS. And we all think differently. I went in under Reagan, so we all think differently. But to answer the question, it's here. That's what next Tuesday is about. We are in front of Judge McGlynn on a motion for a preliminary injunction. What else is going to happen? I think it's the Calkins case has been distributed for conference, but that's on the 5th of January.
Yep.
I don't know when the Naperville case, which is asking for an injunction at SCOTUS, is going to get distributed for conference. I think they have a conference coming up this week. And if it's not in front of this conference, then the next conference is January 5th. So our hearing with FFL, GSL, and GOA is the last bastion before January 1st. That's what there is. And I saw there was another question about the law bolt that guys have been asking me about. I have not said anything about this. Here's the problem with the law bolt, is that you're putting it into a gun that was semi-auto, that still has a gas port in the barrel, a gas block, and a gas tube. And if you use the readily convertible language and you still have the original bolt, that's one problem. The other part is they have done nothing in the rules to deal with common parts. They have said that if a Ruger Precision chassis is sold with an AR-15 pistol grip, the gun's good. But if you take that pistol grip off because you want to put an ergo grip on it, that pistol grip now has to be registered as an attachment. And then under subpart I, parts are treated the same as guns. Internal parts are verboten. So the way it's kind of a convoluted way, and it took me a while to comprehend this. But remember, DB, when you were talking about all these guys that don't know anything, the lobbyist I learned under was a tobacco lobbyist. And one of the most important lessons he told me was, you write the law, let me write the definitions, and I'll win every time. And so in the definitions, they said assault weapon includes, go down the list, subparagraph I, it includes parts or any combination of parts. So they treat parts the same as a gun by the definition of the law. You can't get new parts. And they, in their rules, have not made a distinction between parts and attachments. They have not made a distinction between common parts. So if I'm selling a buffer tube, an adapter, a Magpul MOE stock, and a ergo pistol grip, to convert an 870 into more of a tactical gun with it, with that kit, I'm selling them for a shotgun. And they didn't address any of that in the rules. And this is where it gets fuzzy. I think you're at a 50-50 shot at best with the law bolt because that gun uses so many common parts. Now, if a new gun came out that had a barrel without a gas port, there was no gas block, and there was no gas tube, I think that might be a slightly different argument because it was never designed to be semi-auto. But you still have the problem of the commonality of an AR-15 receiver.
Yep.
So I think there are problems there. Everybody's spending all their time on workarounds. Yeah, the attitude is no.
Yeah, don't just get rid of it.
Also,
Challenge
I'd like to also point out this isn't just an AR-15 issue. This is like every firearm platform you can think of. Hell, look at a Tavor bullpup rifle.
Yeah,
and
so this is part of the grievance process, right? Bargaining, negotiation, right? Everybody feels like it's coming, so they try to bargain, negotiate their way into what they can and can't keep. And the answer is, fuck you, no, right? What we get from FPPC, right?
Exactly.
The answer is we don't really care. No, we're not allowing this, right? We're not going to allow it.
All right. Well, I think we are done here for the night. I gotta go, and I still have to do some more articles because I don't sleep and I live and breathe this crap.
I got a couple of videos I need to crank out that I've been trying to get my head wrapped around. I got a whole list of stuff here to try to do, but sometimes just getting there, and you know how it is. Turnout content's hard, John.
Yeah. Especially
we're both nominated for Gundy's in the same category.
Top Boys of the 2A. Yeah. There's only a week left.
Yeah, and since I only have 10,000 subs, if I get anywhere close, I'll be happy about it.
Are you going to SHOT Show?
Yeah, I'll be at SHOT Show.
No, dude, we got to meet up. Rich is going to be out there. I'm going to be out there. MGB, are you going?
I am not. I'm on vacation that week, close in California, but not in Las Vegas.
And Warsaw, you said you weren't going, right?
No, I won't be able to. I got things I got to take care of. Priorities.
All right. So I'm going to kick it over to Todd first, since you are the guest of honor tonight. So
hey guys, I really, first off, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the banter. You guys are a load of fun to get around. I really appreciate the opportunities. And John, you opening your audience up to sit here and try to help us raise money in Illinois for the litigation we're involved in. Trust me, there's a lot more we want to go after, but we're over $250,000 into our end of our one lawsuit already. We're going to get tagged on both ends. We pay for it as taxpayers. We pay for it on our end. If we prevail and we get a fair award of attorney's fees, we want to turn this into a war chest to keep building on things. And if you've heard me argue about right to repair, you know that we want to have building blocks and go after things that other people aren't doing. I still find it hard to believe that in a post-New York world that we're the first lawsuit to really go after registration. But it's got to be tackled. If we can knock out gun and mag bans, permits to purchase, registration schemes, they aren't left with a whole lot after that. Just modern firearms are protected and you're done. So we really appreciate the opportunity to get the word out. Guys, every $5 contribution adds up. You make dollars out of pennies, and we make, and this isn't cheap. This isn't cheap to go back down this road and reopen up a whole nother case and go out. And nobody else is doing this. The other groups are all doing their thing, and we're in here trying to take a bite at the apple to try to shut down this registration window, and just knock this thing out of the box. And the arguments they are using are so ridiculous. It's just, well, CJ, if you want to drop me a line, I'll give you some thoughts about what I think are the smart ways. I think there's a way to tackle parts of the NFA that we build a house on a good foundation, and that's what we need to do. I've got a couple of really slick ideas about that, but we just don't have the money to fund all that right now. We're just trying to take care of it. But John, everybody, I really appreciate you guys having me on and the chance to banter back and forth with you guys.
CJ, I am going to be reaching out to you. I just haven't had a chance to do it quite yet. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
All right, let's go over to Warsaw next, I guess. Tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on just, partnering with Freedom Steel on his channel every once in a while. I'll probably see him in the comment section. But guys, also, if you want to ever see keen updates on this case, that's really important. Follow Freedom Steel, also known as Todd Vandermine. But also follow Greg Bishop on Air on YouTube. He does live streams actually every morning. What time, Todd?
Usually around 7-ish. He's a reporter that is really into the 2A stuff, and he's not a hack. He's on our side.
Yep.
He gets it. He asks the questions that nobody else wants to ask.
Yep. There's them, and we also got our state's attorney, Tom DeVore, attorney Tom DeVore. You can find him on his YouTube channel as well. He is also helping us on the state's level. You could also find him on his other channel, American Freedom Society. So yeah, those are areas we could actually check and follow up on our case here.
All right, MGB.
Yeah, well, listen, thank you all for having me tonight. Thank you to Warsaw for putting this together, Todd. It's been a pleasure. It's the first time we've interacted. Thank you for hosting us tonight, John, as always.
No problem.
Rich,
you know me, I
to
like to do stuff for the community.
Yeah, I know, man. It was great. I was happy to be invited as a guest panel on here. I mean, obviously, we all are in this fight together. We all feel very strongly. And getting this information out is so important. The right to repair, the right to build, guys, is a right to safety. It's a right to safe firearm ownership, right? And so it's not just owning the firearm, but being able to be intimately involved in your firearm and understand its operation, replace parts, buy parts, upgrade parts. This is all part of it. And yeah, and if we don't get it now, you end up in an NFA situation where 100 years from now, you got new patriots trying to fight it and undo it, right? So we got to nip it in the bud. sadec.org is where you can donate to. And again, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, and Rich, I usually say your part, but I'm going to give it to you to say your own part.
Sure.
No.
Just if you're looking for me, flyingrich.com, I have all my links there. But I really want to echo just what MGB said, is that I thought I knew all sorts of information about an AUG. Once you build one from the ground up, and that's for any firearm, all of a sudden you know everything about that damn thing. About all the little peculiarities and how it works and why it works, and it makes you able to maintain that, keep it safe, and understand why it works that way. So I think all of these things are very important.
I also want to point out that MGB and Rich are both involved in Freedom Crew University. You can go to Freedom Crew University and put a little most common thing at the end of it after a dot and get there, just in case YouTube decides to.
Yeah. Can I just say one more thing? This is where the 8 hours with the machine shop comes in great, because it might take you 8 hours the first time, but the more you do it, guess what happens?
First time, every time.
So 8 hours compared to who? Right?
Oh, yeah.
So yes, get your knowledge up, because they can take away a lot of these things that are tangible, but they can't take away the knowledge that you have.
Oh,
Amen,
you're absolute as an NCO. So, John, where are you staying at SHOT Show?
Damn. Somewhere that's attached to the Venetian. I can't remember exactly where.
Palazzo?
Palazzo.
No, it's a bridge. The river bridge. No.
I'm at the Flamingo.
Okay. I'm not at the Flamingo. I'll tell you in a second. And none of you guys freaking show up in my room out there. You know.
I'm gonna try.
You know what? Should we pick a bar and have some sort of meetup one night just because?
What kind of bar? Would it be a round bar or an octagonal bar? What kind of bar would it be?
Harris. I'm staying at Harris.
You're staying. All right. You're at Harris. You're on the other side of the link.
Yeah, Stan Bollier, Olsen, and I are all staying at the same place. Well, not at the same room, but.
I'm totally stalking you guys then.
We all picked the same hotel to stay at just because it's fun.
Yeah, no. We'll be talking. We got a little over a month, 6 weeks.
Yep. And everyone out there, now it's time for me to do my little spiel here. Just donate. I want to highlight more state stuff, and state stuff doesn't do as well as national stuff when I do videos and whatever. But it's important for me to do it, and I think it's more important to get the word out than for a monetary return. So that's why I do some state stuff, and they don't do too well, but it's important for you guys to know what's going on, and even if it's not your state, in states around the country, because all this stuff is going to be coming to your state eventually.
Oh yeah.
They're not
100%.
going to give up. They're definitely not going to give up at all. And if you guys want to, I'm going to be on like One American News tomorrow, for no podcast tomorrow.
Yay!
But we have
We might do a podcast anyhow.
okay, Rich might do a podcast, but we also have Uncensored podcast tomorrow at 10 p.m.
Yep.
on Rumble, which is a fun time. We talk about topics that we can't talk about on YouTube without getting banned. Tomorrow is Dark's show, so I'm not really
Dark's
sure what we're
topic.
doing. I don't know what the topic is. So
You went to the other side of the force?
yeah, maybe. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for tuning in, and just be kind to each other, as Dark always used to say. And he's not on because
Rewind.
he got super distracted and busy or something. So he would have loved to have been on, but it was just you just couldn't make it work. So yeah, that happens. So we're going to say goodbye, good night, and
Frag out.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen.
no,